What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who Classic Review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the second Doctor Patrick Troughton story, The Web of Fear. So this was an interesting one for me. The second ever second Doctor story I saw was The Enemy of the World. This is the story straight after The Enemy of the World. It was also recovered at pretty much the same time. So a lot of people compare this to The Enemy of the World, which is a bit of an unfair comparison really, because they're two very different stories. But it is a comparison that gets, put together very often. So I was interested to see what I thought of The Web of Fear. This is the second kind of Yeti story, the first one being The Abominable Snowmen. However, that one, most of the episodes are missing. I think there is at least one episode still surviving, but it has not been released on DVD with a reconstruction or an animation or anything. So this is the only Yeti story that we can actually watch completely, with one episode, episode 3, being a telesnap reconstruction, but we can technically watch this in its entirety. So this is The Web of Fear by Marvin Heisman and Henry Lincoln. In order to escape an attack in space, the TARDIS makes an unscheduled landing and ends up deep inside the London Underground. Here, the travellers soon find themselves engulfed in a thrilling battle with the Great Intelligence and the Yeti, a deadly enemy set to invade the Earth. But as events take a turn for the worst, it becomes clear that the golden prize is not just the Earth, but the Doctor's mind too. So a pretty interesting little thing there. So yeah, the Great Intelligence are back. Basically, I don't really know anything about the Abominable Snowmen. All I know is it has the Great Intelligence and the Yeti in it. And it's a story that sadly we can't really watch. You can listen to it in its entirety, but you can't watch it. So I haven't experienced it at all in any form. So this is the only Yeti story I've seen. So let's get on with this one, starting off with the cast. Okay, so Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor. I love Patrick Troughton as the second Doctor. In all his stories, this is no exception. He's really good in this one. Actually a bit more serious in this one to what he is in some stories. I mean, he's a little bit giddy in a lot of stories, but the Moonbase is one where he's definitely more serious, and this is one where he also seems to be quite a bit more serious than he has been in other stories. But he does great at everything. He does great at the comedic stuff and the serious stuff. He's just such a fun actor, just a great actor altogether. Patrick Troughton, honestly, every time I watch him, I love him even more. He's slowly going up in the rankings of my Doctors because I just love him more every time I see him. You've then got Fraser Hines as Jamie McCrimmon. It's a similar story for Jamie, to be honest. As a companion, he's becoming one of my favourite companions of the classic series, at least. It's a pretty rare thing with Jamie because he actually is pretty much in the second Doctor's complete run. I mean, he's not in Power of the Daleks, and he's not in well, actually no, Power of the Daleks I'm pretty sure is the only story he's not in, because he appears in the Highlanders, which I'm fairly sure is the second Patrick Troughton story. I'm not sure if it goes Highlanders, Underwater Menace. I'm pretty sure he's in Underwater Menace though. So yeah, he's in every Troughton story apart from his first, from what I can think of. So he's there for the whole thing, which is something that hasn't happened since, unless you count the Ninth Doctor and Rose, but I mean, he has such a short run that doesn't really count. Yeah, Jamie I'm just really loving. I think he's just such a good companion. And then you've got Deborah Watling as Victoria Waterfield. She's now apart from Jamie, the other companion of the second Doctor that I've seen the most. Yeah, I do quite like Victoria. I quite like her in this one. She gets a little bit to do. Yeah, she's pretty good. I mean, yeah, she's alright. She's not like one of my favourite all top tier companions, but she's pretty good. I do think she has very good chemistry with Pat Troughton and Fraser Hines. Alright, let's get into the good and the bad, starting off with the good. I like the Yeti's design. I really do. Now I'm not 100% sure, but we kind of got it said in the episode. The Doctor did point out that the Yetis, it was kind of a Yeti point too. Their design had changed. Now I don't really know what the Yetis looked like in the Abominable Snowmen. I haven't looked it up, and like I said, I haven't seen or heard anything from that story, so I actually don't really know what they look like. This is the only Yeti design that I know, and I quite like it. I think it looks quite cool. They are obviously robots, the Yeti, which is something that I didn't really know. I have seen the Yeti before in the Five Doctors. They had a brief appearance in that, but I can't remember if they were robots in that. I'm pretty sure they were Yeti in that, right? I don't remember them being robots, and they looked quite a lot different, so I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, the Yeti, they're actually robots. They're not Yeti yet. They're not actual Yeti, you know, they're not creatures. They're robots controlled by the Great Intelligence. And I just think the look of them, they look creepy. The noises they make, the roars, and, you know, the way their eyes kind of glow up. They have like the glowing ball in the chest as well, which is kind of the control center thing. Yeah, I just really like the design of the Yeti. Professor Travers realizing who Jamie and Victoria are. I thought that was a really cool scene. Once again, haven't seen the Abominable Snowman, so to me I had no idea who Professor Travers was. However, when he does realize who Jamie and Victoria are, and he explains that, you know, well, he just kind of, you hear that they obviously met the first time when they met the Great Intelligence and the Yeti. I think it's pretty cool to bring a character back, not just from an earlier story, but from an earlier story, and it actually turns out that it's kind of Travers' fault that the Yeti are back again, you know, because he wanted to keep the parts and keep the Yeti parts, and it turned out that, you know, they actually kind of came back to life. The Great Intelligence came back and took them all over again, just because he kind of wanted a collection, you know, he wanted to collect these things. I thought that was pretty cool, but yeah, I mean, it didn't maybe have quite the impact on me that it may have had with some other people with him returning, and obviously I didn't get it straight away because I didn't know who he was straight away, but when we did finally figure that out, I thought that was pretty cool. Introduction to Lethbridge Stewart, of course, not known as the Brigadier in this one, he was Colonel Lethbridge Stewart, but this is the first time we ever see the Brigadier. He later goes on to become the Brigadier, I believe is it the Invasion? I think, the final Sideman story from the Troughton era, pretty sure he's in that, and I think that's when he becomes the Brigadier. So yeah, I thought it was really cool to have him. You know, this is where he starts. A little bit disappointing, I mean, not really to be held, not a fault of the story, just a fault of kind of, I don't know, the BBC, I suppose, with their archiving footage. The fact that the Brigadier, I'm just going to call him the Brigadier, even though he's not the Brigadier yet, but the Brigadier shows up in episode 3, which is the episode that we only have telesnap reconstructions of, so we don't actually get to see him. Like, his first scenes we don't actually get to really see, we just see pictures of them, which is a bit disappointing, but what can you really do about that? The soldiers fighting the Yeti on the surface, really good action scene. What I'm noticing is Patrick Troughton's era, and a lot of John Pertwee's era, but Patrick Troughton's era is what I'm talking about here, very notable for good action scenes. Really well directed, really well, you know, edited and shot, I suppose. Just really cool fighting scenes when they're, you know, the soldiers are fighting the Yeti above the surface, on top of London Underground. I thought that was a really cool set of scenes there. The Doctor and Anne taking control of a Yeti, I thought that was a really cool moment. It was actually one of the moments where the Doctor had a bit more of a comedic moment again, you know, when he finally got the ball working, the kind of control unit working, and he was like, oh yes, oh, and you could tell he was like really happy about it. That's just great stuff. I love that, and I just really like how they start commanding a Yeti around, like turn right, turn left, and this Yeti's just walking around. I thought that was pretty cool. The twist that Arnold is with the Great Intelligence, now to be honest, I kind of saw that coming a little bit. You know, they were kind of like, where's Arnold gone? You know, and it was quite obvious that somebody was going to be working with the Great Intelligence, and I kind of figured it was going to be him, but I thought, you know, I still thought that was pretty cool. And then the fact they didn't completely destroy the Great Intelligence, I find really interesting, because I'm not 100% sure, don't quote me on this, but I don't think the Great Intelligence return again in the classic series. Pretty sure this is their last appearance. Now, I might have got that wrong, I might have got that completely wrong, but I'm fairly sure this is the last appearance of the Great Intelligence in the classic series. They then return in The Snowmen in series, 7? 2012, I believe, Christmas special. The Great Intelligence returns then. Don't think it returned before that point. So it's kind of cool that they didn't kill the Great Intelligence off here, but they never really brought it back until, God, like 40 odd years later. That's pretty crazy. On to the bad. The first thing is that the Doctor isn't in episode 2 at all. Now, this is a 6-part story. To be honest, it's a 6-part story that I actually think flows pretty well. It's one of the better paced stories of the classic series, with the six-parters. I will say that there are a few slow moments, like there are in pretty much all the classic stories, no matter how many parts you get it, especially the six-parters. But it's definitely not one of those slow, slogging six-parters. However, yeah, episode 2, the Doctor is not in it at all, and although I do think that the rest of the cast do kind of, you know, they do pull the story along, it would have been nice to have the Doctor there. He's completely absent. We don't even see a glimpse of him in episode 2, so that's really disappointing. I thought I would have liked to see him a bit more there. We do see him plenty more in all the other episodes, but I don't know, it just felt like a whole episode we were missing him. Like I said before, episode 3 is a telesnap reconstruction, which I can't really take points off the story because it's not a story problem. It's literally the BBC lost the footage, they binned the footage, so we don't have it anymore. So that's not really something I can mark the score down on, but it is something that it does put you off a little bit. I don't think the reconstruction is terrible, but it also isn't great. The Great Intelligence talking through Travers is kind of annoying. Yeah, when he starts talking through Professor Travers, the way that he was, I thought the guy who was playing Professor Travers actually did a really good job. Jack Watling, I think that is, something like that. He did a great job at playing Professor Travers. However, when he was being taken over by the Great Intelligence, I didn't like, he was taking forever to say the lines. He was so slow the way he was talking. The way he looked was pretty creepy, but the way he was saying it as well just really kind of annoyed me, especially when later on we found Arnold, who was taken over by the Great Intelligence, and he kind of talked more normally. So why Professor Travers sounded so weird and silly, I don't know. That kind of just put me off a bit. And then finally, quite a lot of walking around the tunnels. Not a massive problem, but there was quite a lot of let's go in the tunnels, let's go out, let's go in here, let's go back to the tunnels, let's go back over here, and then we're back in the tunnels, and then we're up on the surface, and then we're back in the tunnels. A lot of running around the underground tunnels, but I mean, yeah, it was alright. Alright, so the final verdict on the Web of Fear. I think it's actually a very good story. It is a very good story. Not one of my favourite Troughtons though, and it doesn't beat The Enemy of the World for me. There is a thing where people either really like that, I think people generally do quite like both of them, but there's always, which one do you prefer, The Web of Fear or The Enemy of the World? I do prefer The Enemy of the World personally. I'm going to give The Web of Fear a 9 out of 10. It's pretty close to a 10 out of 10, but there's just a couple of things that do put me off a little bit. I don't know, there's just something about it that didn't quite hook me in the way that, say, The Enemy of the World did. I know it's kind of weird to compare the two stories because they're both very different stories, but it's something that people tend to do, and yeah, I don't know, it's a good story, don't get me wrong, a 9 out of 10, it's a bloody good story, but it's just, I don't know, it's just not my favourite. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Go down in the description, follow me on Twitter, and I'll see you guys in the next video.